Midnight Mass is Mike Flanagan's newest show. It came out a few weeks ago on Netflix, and as many of you know, I absolutely love Mike Flanagan. I think that he is the best horror director working right now. I love The Haunting of Hill House. It is like one of my favorite just things ever. Bly Manor is great. Doctor Sleep is amazing. I love this man. So I was very excited to check out this show, and I have to say, I absolutely loved it, and I'm gonna give a massive spoiler warning because I have to talk about spoilers here. If you've seen the show, then you can keep watching this video. If you haven't seen it, don't watch this because it will totally ruin it for you. I went into the show only knowing the very not borderline, like surface level plot of the show. I really didn't know much about it. I just knew it was Mike Flanagan and it had some familiar faces as always. That's why I recommend going into the show. There's your spoiler warning. Please check this out. It is the best show of the year. So I feel like there's no need to read out the plot because if you're watching this video, then you know what happens in the show. This show is phenomenal. I think that Mike Flanagan once again almost like outdoes himself. Hill House is still my favorite, but I actually like this one even more than Bly Manor, and I love Bly Manor, but this show is a masterpiece. This show is everything I want it to be, and I feel like before going into this video, let's talk about one of my favorite topics ever, religion. Now, okay, I understand if you're religious. Me personally, I'm not religious at all. If you can't watch this video because you know that I'm not religious, I feel really bad for you. I really do. That really sucks. I hope that is able to change in the future, but I'm not religious at all. I don't even like to call myself an atheist because then it sounds like I belong to a group of people, but some people know that. I haven't really talked about it in a video. I'm not religious at all, so just know that going into this video talking about a show which is mainly based around religion, I'm not religious at all, but I do have a bunch of friends that are religious. Honestly, some of my best friends are, and my school is also connected to a Catholic school, and like half the people in my town go to it, so we hear some very fun stories, and I'll talk about that a little bit in this video. But for me, religion is always just one of those things that is so interesting, but also just so disturbing, and it's something that, I don't know, as there are so many times where I'm just like, oh, that really, really sucks. But if you are religious, don't worry, I don't hate you at all. Trust me, a lot of my friends are very religious, yet they're still good people. That's why they're my friends. It's just the problem with religion for me is the hatred and the bad messages that come out of it. If your religion is like a cult, then that is an issue. It really is. If you are homophobic, transphobic, racist, anything like that because of your religion, that is a problem, and I will totally say that here. I know that this video, and I bet this show, has offended multiple people, but that is my honest opinion. This is my take on the show, and for me, this show captured everything I've heard about religion. I have to say that. I, of course, do not have personal experiences with religion, but I've heard many stories from people who are at that Catholic school that say the teachers are telling people horrible things and promoting really bad activity. And a lot of my friends too, they have told me stories where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that you have to go through that. And again, I just feel bad for you guys, but I'm gonna kind of stray away from this, my own personal stuff, and talk about the actual show. I know that will offend a lot of people. Again, I apologize. I do not care if you're religious. If you're religious, great. Just don't be an asshole. I think that the way that Flanagan dealt with religion here was great. Again, as a non-religious person, as I said multiple times, I don't know how accurate it is, but there were definitely many times in the show where they start using all these like references to stuff, and I was just like, I don't know what that is, but it didn't really confuse you. I feel like Mike Flanagan did a really good job at like having the audience understand what they're talking about when they refer to this certain part from the Bible, but also like you're not super confused, and if you aren't religious at all like me, then you're not like, oh, this kind of sucks, I don't know what's going on, because you always know what's going on. And the first thing I do have to talk about with the show are the performances. They are outstanding. Hamish Linklater, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I know someone named Hamish, so some people say Hamish, but I think it's Hamish Linklater, leads the show. He is the new father that comes into town. Well, talk about that in a little bit, but he is absolutely stunning in this show. He is fantastic. I think that he gives the best performance in the show, and that is saying a lot because everybody is great here, but obviously because he is the pastor or priest or whatever, again, I don't really know. He has a lot of monologues and so many like speeches and stuff, but even just his back and forth with some of the characters, especially Riley, who is kind of the main character for like the first half of the show. They have like their own little AA meetings, the little conversations, and his just like a sharp back and forth just is so well done. The emotion and passion that is in his voice in my favorite episode, which is episode 6, when we get a certain reveal, which I will obviously talk about later. The way he like builds up and he like makes his voice almost sound booming. He's like, here it is. It's just like outstanding. He really outdid himself, and I think that it is the best performance in the show, but there are also some great ones. I mean, I could talk about every single one individually. The kids, the parents, everybody was so good. My favorite character was the sheriff, played by, I'm really gonna mispronounce this. I apologize. I have the name up here. Rahul Kohli. I really apologize if that's wrong. I definitely know it is. He was obviously Owen in Blind Manor. I follow him on Instagram, and I absolutely love this guy. He's one of my favorite celebrities now, just because he's such a funny guy. I really do love him, and I think that he was my favorite character in the show because if you've obviously seen it, I again would be ruining stuff, but he is Muslim, and so is his kid. So you have this island, Crockett Island, and it's filled with people who I think are Christian or Catholic, but I'm pretty sure they're Christian. So you have him here, and obviously he doesn't go to all these masses that everybody goes to, and you see the response for that from so many people. One in particular is Beverly, or Bev, played very well, but also very, very evil, by Samantha Slohan. Again, I'm just looking up the names here because I don't want to mispronounce them, at least do my best. And she is like the Umbridge of this show. You fucking hate her. She is an awful person, but her performance is just so good. Like, I almost don't want to say good things about it, but obviously I have to because she was amazing in the show. She's obviously very racist, and he calls her out on that. The sheriff calls her out on that, not all the time directly to her, but sometimes to like Kate Siegel's character or other people, he will call her out on it. There's one scene in particular, one of the best scenes in the show, where they are trying to put the Bible into a public school, and obviously that is insanely stupid. It's a public school, so that's just crazy, and he kind of stands up for that. And again, I'm gonna mispronounce this, but I think the Muslim kind of scripture, I'll say, is, I think it's the Quran or something like that. And he's like, well, what if I did this in a public school? You guys would be so offended. And especially in the last episode, you see her just like fully going, she's very racist, she's very evil here, but I sided so much with him throughout the whole thing. And one of the main reasons is because his son, after hanging out with these kids for a while, wants to go to church, and he starts going to church. And again, as I mentioned, spoilers many times, he does kind of choose God in one way. There's a part where he says, I choose God, and he drinks the rat poison, which I will talk about that episode more in depth in a bit, but he does, and he betrays him, and that scene had me tearing up. I did not expect to feel that way watching the show, but when they have him, the sheriff, pinned down on the ground, and he's watching his son kind of like turn on him, and the whole addition of the mother just absolutely changes it. I could talk about his whole relationship and his importance in the show in like an entire video by himself. And they also took inspiration from Joel of The Last of Us, which is my favorite video game of all time, and I could definitely see it here. But I think the sheriff was my favorite character in the show. I know that a lot of people's favorite or the best ones will be some of the other main ones, and he wasn't in the show as much as I expected in the first half, but the second half, just so important. Fantastic performance, man. I love you. Please keep doing this. And since this is Mike Flanagan, of course, we see a ton of familiar faces. Henry Thomas is, of course, in this. He looks a lot older here, and it definitely works. He plays another, I don't want to say father, because if I say father, it sounds confusing, but he plays a dad just like he did in Hill House. And then, of course, in Blind Manor, he played an uncle. In Dr. Sleep, he was the bartender, but kind of Jack Torrance in a way. So he's in a ton of his movies. He's even in some of the ones I know that I haven't seen, like Gerald's Game, maybe. Hush, I think he's in. Maybe Oculus. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he's, of course, in it. He is fantastic. Everybody is great here. Kate Siegel is another one of the main actors here, and just as always, she blows me away. I think that Theo was one of my favorite kids. She was my favorite of the daughters in the show, so just seeing her here once again, she was, of course, in that one episode of Blind Manor. She is fantastic. She has so many emotional scenes, especially with the baby, that just blew me away once again. Everybody is just fantastic in the show, and Mike Flanagan, I have to always talk about him, but his writing is utterly perfect. As I mentioned, you're not confused while watching the show as someone who is not religious. Even when they reference all this stuff from the Bible, you don't feel like you're missing out. Yeah, I feel like the show would probably impact you more if you are religious or if you've had traumatic experiences like a lot of people have with religion, but I didn't ever feel confused. All the dialogue feels so real. All the suspense and the thrills are just perfect. I mean, as I said in the beginning of this video, Mike Flanagan is my favorite current horror director. I think that he is just the best one. As much as I love James Wan, and he's a very close second, Mike Flanagan is for me the best one. And yes, Hill House for me is still a better show, but there are so many scenes here which I had no idea the direction where they were going. Obviously, the big reveal, I think I'll just talk about it now, is this whole thing with this angel that's also kind of like this vampire in a way. And the whole time when they're drinking the blood of Christ, I think, and I knew about that and the whole like body of Christ thing where they swallow that like little what does it look like, kind of like a cracker in a way. I'm sorry guys, I really am, but they've been kind of poisoning them in a way and turning them basically into vampires in the end, because if they go in the sunlight they get burnt up and they're hungry for blood of real people, and it's crazy, they can never die, they're going for eternal life. And the reveal of the angel, that's what I'll refer to it as, was mind-blowing, because in the first few episodes you just see the little glow of the lights, and the whole thing with the cats was so sad for me because my cat is literally like my child, so that was very sad for me to see. But the whole reveal of that was perfect. And when Riley walks in and tries to find the father, you know who I'm talking about, obviously. And then he walks in, he sees him kneel on the ground, and then he turns, and the angel turns around and just grabs him and starts like, destroying him, ripping him apart, was crazy. And then that scene in my favorite episode, which is episode 6, where the whole church is there and the sheriff is there, everybody, because the son had convinced him, because they knew something big was happening, so obviously he went. And then as the sheriff tries to leave after pulling a gun, you just see the angel there. I actually said it loud, oh my god, which yes is a little bit ironic and whatever, but when I saw that, my mind was like, what are they gonna do with this? And then when everybody starts drinking the rat poison, and when his son drinks the rat poison and says, I choose God, like, it was just like, I have goosebumps talking about it. I know I'm not speaking properly, but it was just mind-blowing. And the whole end of the show and the finale and everything was perfectly wrapped up. It was sad seeing a lot of these characters go. Like, obviously Riley, he dies I think in episode 5 when he sees the son, but when he finally reveals to Kate what's been going on and everything, and Kate realizes that all this is actually happening because she was pregnant, and then one day the baby is just gone. And then you have the doctor, and her mother is like getting younger as it goes along, and the whole reveal of the, I think, priest or pastor, whatever, and it's actually the old one. I mean, that is just insanity, and it's so well done. It never feels bloated. In 7 episodes, Mike Flanagan is able to tie all this together. The thrills are amazing. There really isn't that many jump scares. I can't really think of it. This is more of a thriller show, but there are definitely horror elements in it. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing. That's one of the main things I felt, is that really felt like the setting worked so well. And you could always tell what time of day it was. It never felt like something that was shot on a set. I really felt like I was on Crockett Island with all these people, because when you look at a ton of, like, not even just horror, but in general, when people are stuck in houses and stuff, it can feel like you're on a set. But when they're on this island, and a lot of the time they're just walking outside, it feels so real. If this show didn't feel realistic, I really don't think it would have worked as well for me. This is a TV masterpiece. I will be talking about this show more and more. I'm not sure how many videos I'll do on it. It might just be this one, but I feel like in live streams I might just gush about this show. I highly recommend watching this, even if it isn't something that you'd expect to like. I mean, I told my dad to watch it, and he hasn't watched anything by Mike Flanagan, so I really hope he likes it, because he said it's good so far. I think he's 2 episodes in, so I'm excited to see what he thinks of it. This show is my favorite one of the year, and if you're religious or not, I highly recommend watching the show. It's on Netflix. It's 7 episodes. Check it out. Midnight Mass is my favorite show of this year. Just as you'd expect, the performances, cinematography, writing, sound, and thrills are fantastic. Hamish Linklater leads the show with such passion and charisma, but is equally matched by the rest of the cast. In just 7 episodes, Mike Flanagan completes this insane story and once again blew my mind. I really mean it when I say he is the best in the horror genre right now. I'm gonna give Midnight Mass a 5 out of 5. This show is just perfect. As I said multiple times, Hill House is still my favorite, and I don't ever see something topping Hill House. It's the best miniseries I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite things ever, like top 5, top 10. Definitely, I think that show is perfect, and I know a lot of people do prefer this one. I'm interested to know if you guys are religious, because I know a lot of my friends, even on the internet here, are religious. And again, I really hope I did not offend anyone in this video. I know I said some stuff earlier about religion, and some people will probably take it the wrong way. I just once again have to reiterate, if you are religious, I do not care. just don't be a bad person. But that goes with anybody. If anybody's homophobic, racist, transphobic, or anything like that, I probably don't like you. So that's not just a religious thing, just a lot of people use that as an excuse. That's my end of the discussion on all that. I know it's a controversial topic, but I want to know, if you've seen Midnight Mass, is it your favorite Mike Flanagan show? Where does it rank amongst his other projects? What is your favorite episode moment? And if you talk about a moment, make sure to give a spoiler warning. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.